You ever have one of those nights that just tears the world wide open? I'm telling you, if you'd been at Lepon that evening in Manhattan, you would have felt it. The whole place frozen, breathless, like the air was made of glass and someone just swung a hammer. Forks stuck midair, conversations cut off with half a laugh, and every set of eyes. Waiters, lawyers, old money couples, snapped to that corner table, where Ethan Caldwell, billionaire, stood up so hard his chair almost toppled, his suit, navy, tailored so perfect it gleamed under those crystal lights, made him look like a king, if kings threw tantrums at dinner. His face went beet red as he stared down at Sophia Jenkins, the server, this petite black woman whose hand shook just a little on the silver tray she clutched, but whose chin stayed up, eyes steady. I don't understand how a place like Lepon hires someone like you. Ethan spat, loud enough for the whole room. The words cut deeper than any steak knife. I saw Sophia's knuckles go white. Her uniform, a little armor for the night, suddenly looked thin as tissue. But she held herself, lips pressed together, breathing through the pain, not about to give him the show he wanted. Around us, the air buzzed with awkward energy. I caught a woman in a red dress leaning in, whispering, an old couple exchanging worried looks. No one moved. Even the pianist just stopped. Ethan jabbed a finger in Sophia's face, voice hard as concrete. I came here for the best, not your so-called diversity. You could feel the room crackle with shock and, let's be honest, shame. Because who wants to be that silent when something ugly explodes? Sophia, for a second, looked like she might crumble. But then you could see it. Her remembering why she was there, probably thinking of her daughter, Lily. She set her tray down, voice trembling but steady. Sir, if you'd like, I can fetch the manager. Just calm, professional, showing more dignity in one breath than Ethan had in his entire body. But Ethan wanted a scene. He slammed his fist down, glass shattering, red wine blooming across the tablecloth like blood. You're useless. You embarrass this place. All I could think was, how many times had Sophia heard something like this? How many nights had she stood on that same tightrope, her little girl's smile in her mind, working for a better life? See, Sophia's story didn't start in this restaurant. She grew up in Queens, in the kind of neighborhood you don't see on postcards, old apartments, tough streets. Hope sometimes just a rumor. Her parents cleaned offices. Her teachers doubted her, kids mocked her skin. She hustled her way through school, dreamed of being a ballet dancer, and then life threw her a curveball. Pregnant at 20, abandoned by the guy she trusted. She kept Lily, took every job she could, waitressing, cleaning, anything. Always just one bill away from disaster. But no matter how hard she pushed, the world pushed back harder. Even Lily, just a kid, came home in tears because other kids wouldn't play with her. That's the kind of pain you carry around in your bones. But Sophia never gave up. She took the job at Lepon, a place known for fancy food and colder hearts. Not just for herself, but for Lily's future. From day one, she felt the chill. Coworkers icing her out, diners looking through her. Still, she doubled down, up before dawn, ironing her uniform, memorizing every menu, every wine, determined to prove herself in a place that'd rather see her fail. But that night, Ethan's attack, it hit different. It was like all her hard work, all her hope, got trampled in front of a crowd that just watched. Still, Sophia didn't break. She wouldn't let her daughter see her beaten. Even after Ethan stormed out, the fear stuck. You know what I mean? One call from a guy like him, and you could lose everything. Richard, the manager, told her as much, his voice shaking. Sophia, you know what you've done? He could ruin you. But Sophia just breathed. I couldn't let it go. I'm sorry. She wasn't backing down. Before anyone could catch their breath, Ethan burst back in, red with rage, bodyguards in tow. He spat threats, promised she'd never work in New York again, said he'd destroy her. But for the first time, Sophia didn't look away. She said, voice clear enough for everyone to hear, if standing up for my dignity costs me everything, I won't regret it. Yeah, that happened. And then, here's the twist that nobody saw coming. A wave of support rolled through the restaurant. First a woman, then others, one by one, came up to Sophia, some with tears in their eyes, telling her she was brave, that she did the right thing. For a moment, even after the worst humiliation, Sophia was surrounded by kindness she didn't know was there. But the fight was far from over. That night, someone posted the whole showdown online. By morning, Sophia's face was everywhere. News, social media, you name it. Hashtag Courage of Sophia trended. Some people praised her for standing up, others sent threats, ugly words, the whole 9 yards. The spotlight that found her was harsh, relentless. Reporters camped outside her apartment. Strangers tried to dig up her past. For a while, she couldn't step outside without feeling hunted. But every time she looked at Lily, Sophia found a way to keep going, and the world started to shift. Lipon's owner, Patrice, who rarely said a word, called an emergency meeting, stood up in front of the whole staff, and said, "We will not bow to hate. We stand with Sophia." The room erupted in applause. Sophia wasn't just some server anymore. She was the symbol of a place that refused to bend, and the story didn't end there. Out of nowhere, Bill Gates, yeah, the Bill Gates, showed up at Lipon, sat down with Sophia, told her she'd inspired a national project to protect workers like her. He asked her to be the face of it, Project Decency. She almost said no, thinking, who am I to lead anything? But Gates looked at her and said, "Your courage is what people need. Not a perfect activist, but a real person who's lived it." With the world watching, Sophia took the job. She gave interviews, spoke at rallies, and everywhere she went, she carried that quiet strength, the kind born from a lifetime of surviving, fighting, hoping for something better. Haters still came for her, and Ethan tried to shut her down behind the scenes. But the harder they fought, the more people stood up beside her. That's the thing. One person's decency can light a fire nobody expects. And in the end, at the big launch of Project Decency, Sophia stood on stage, in the same room where she'd been humiliated, and said, "If one voice can spark this much change, imagine what we can do together." The room rose to its feet. Even Bill Gates looked a little choked up. So here's what I keep thinking. Would you have done what Sophia did? Would you risk everything to stand up for your own dignity, or for someone else's? That's the question, right? If her story moved you, drop a comment, tell us what you'd do. Share this with anyone who needs a reminder. Sometimes the smallest act of courage changes the whole world. And hey, if you want to hear more stories that matter, stick around. This is just the beginning. Funny thing about standing up for what's right. Once you do it, life never quite goes back to the way it was, you know? That night after Project Decency's launch, Sophia walked home through the Manhattan streets. The air crisp and cool, city lights flickering off rain-soaked pavement. She felt lighter than she had in years, but she knew, deep down, she'd stepped into a bigger fight than anything she'd ever faced. The next morning started like any other, her alarm buzzing in that tiny Queens apartment, Lily snoring softly, the smell of coffee drifting in from the neighbor's place. But as soon as Sophia checked her phone, it hit her. Dozens of new messages, missed calls from news outlets, invitations to speak, strangers from all over reaching out with their own stories, asking for advice, just wanting someone to listen. She barely had time to breathe before Patrice called, her voice buzzing with excitement and nerves. "Sophia, you're booked on Good Morning America. CNN wants a follow-up. The mayor's office is calling about a citywide workers' initiative. You ready?" She wasn't, honestly, but she nodded anyway, because what choice did she have? She was the face of something now, whether she'd wanted it or not. All week, Sophia found herself whisked from one interview to the next, sitting in green rooms beside people she'd only ever seen on TV, listening to producers tell her to speak from the heart, and makeup artists trying to hide the bags under her eyes. It was surreal, exhausting, and, sometimes, deeply lonely, because no matter how many people cheered her on, there was always someone waiting to drag her back down. Some nights, the fear hit harder than ever. More than once, she'd hear footsteps behind her, or get an ugly message online. "Watch your back. Caldwell doesn't lose." Lily started asking why men with cameras waited outside their building, or why other moms at school suddenly seemed extra interested in who Sophia was. The pressure got so real that Sophia sometimes thought about quitting, just disappearing for good, starting over somewhere no one knew her name. But every time, she'd see Lily's face or remember the emails from people saying, "You gave me hope," and she'd keep going. The world, for its part, wasn't sure what to make of her. Some saw a hero, some just saw trouble. Certain restaurants blacklisted her, while others put up, "We stand with Sophia" signs in the windows. Caldwell's people ran smear campaigns, digging up her past, twisting her story, threatening lawsuits, but nothing stuck the way he hoped. The more dirt they flung, the more people seemed to rally behind her. Something had shifted. People were paying attention now. Project Decency started as a small promise, but with Bill Gates's backing and Sophia's heart, it caught fire. She spent her days meeting with business leaders, city officials, activists, sometimes so tired she'd cry in the bathroom between speeches. She watched as policies actually started to change. Restaurants setting up new anti-discrimination protocols, hotels hiring more diverse staff, a hotline for workers facing bias, real consequences for powerful people who used to skate by untouched. And yet, the personal toll was real. Sophia missed slow mornings with Lily, walking her to school, sharing stories over dinner. More than once, she wondered aloud if she'd made the right choice, if being a symbol was worth the sacrifice. Lily, wise beyond her years, would climb into her lap, wrap tiny arms around her neck and say, "Mommy, you're making things better. For me. For other kids, too." That's what kept Sophia moving forward. Even when her own strength felt like it was running on fumes, there was one night, one I'll never forget, when Sophia was invited to speak at a citywide event honoring workers' rights. The crowd was packed, the stage so bright she could barely see the faces looking back at her. Just as she finished her speech, a young woman stepped forward from the shadows, a server from another restaurant, tears in her eyes, saying, "You saved my job. You gave me courage I didn't know I had." Sophia hugged her, and in that moment, the power of her story, the ripple effect, felt real and alive. But life wasn't a fairy tale. Caldwell's shadow loomed large. His lawyers tried to silence her. His money moved quietly behind the scenes. There were nights when Sophia felt the walls closing in, when doubt whispered that she was in over her head, that one wrong move could end everything. But then came small victories. A manager fired for racist remarks, a scholarship fund for workers' children, an invitation to help shape statewide policy. Each win, no matter how small, was fuel. Some days, Sophia felt the old exhaustion creeping in, that bone-deep tiredness from fighting a world that doesn't want to change. She'd walk through Lipan, see her old coworkers, some friendlier now, some still cold, and remember the night she stood up to Ethan Caldwell, how terrified she'd been, how powerful it felt to finally say, "No more." She realized her story wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone who'd ever swallowed an insult or hidden their pain just to keep a job. One rainy evening, Lily asked, "Mom, do you think the world's better now?" Sophia thought about it, then smiled. "It's better than it was yesterday, kiddo. And that's enough for now. Because change never comes all at once. It's slow, messy, full of setbacks. But courage, real courage, is contagious. All it takes is one person, one moment, to crack the ice so others can follow. So if you're listening to this, if you've ever wondered if you could make a difference, remember Sophia Jenkins, a single mom from Queens, standing in front of power, saying enough is enough. She didn't just change her own life, she sparked a movement. What about you? If you were in her shoes, would you stand tall? Or stay silent and safe? Let us know down in the comments. This is your story now too. If you believe in courage and decency, share this with someone who needs hope. And don't forget to subscribe, because as long as there are stories like Sophia's, we'll be right here telling them, one voice at a time.